Hi everyone, welcome to the Safety Mastery for Schools course, a guide to building a safe and inclusive system for school children. Why is this course important? It's important because there's been a rise in accidents in our schools. Children are going to schools and are getting into various incidents, whether it's accidents, whether it's injury, whether it's ill health, whether it's abduction or molestation. How can we ensure that our schools are safe? And so we are here to bridge the knowledge gap because we realize that we do not have adequate information. And that is why this course is very important. So this course is going to have 5 modules and would run through it very briefly. About us, who are we? Our organization is focused on providing information to educators because we realize that there is a gap. The safety consciousness is really reduced because a lot of us would rather say, God forbid, or it's not my portion, instead of putting safety systems in place. And so our job is to try to increase our safety consciousness, most especially in the younger generation. We understand that teachers have to work with these children, and so it's important that while we educate the children on how to stay safe, we also teach the teachers and the educators, school owners, how to ensure that the school system is safe for children in their care. I'm the managing partner of ULOMCA, a business focused on child safety education for children and also for educators. I'm also known as a safety chick on social media because of my work in raising safety consciousness. So if you go on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you would find me as the safety chick. Also, I'm the author of a child safety storybook series, The Adventures of Muna, which was self-published on Amazon. As of today, it has sold in 12 states in Nigeria and in 8 countries. Also, I'm the convener of the annual School Safety Summit. Remember I mentioned earlier that we're really big on bridging the knowledge gap. And so what we do in the School Safety Summit is we bring stakeholders in child safety, child protection, and in education, and then we'll bring teachers, school owners, parents, and concerned citizens together. Using a central theme, we make sure that there is a conversation so that there is knowledge transfer between these two parties. Also, I'm the lead trainer for the CSR of the business, the Train Them Young initiative, where we visit schools across the country, teaching children how to stay safe in different situations. I'm also a speaker. People invite me to speak and inspire young people or to facilitate certain courses for their participants, as it were. I'm also currently a board member of the West African Regional Advisory Board. This means we proffer advice to USAID and IREX on matters related to the Mandela Washington Fellowship. And I'm a recent past coordinator of the Ali Network in Lagos. Why is it important for me to say who I am? It's important so that you understand why this is really important to me and why I'm here trying to share information so that you can keep children in your school safe. Course objectives. By the end of this course, all learners will be able to write a safety policy, they'll be able to identify hazards in the school environment and provide effective control measures. It's also important that they would understand the different components of a safety management system and see how to localize it in their various schools. So let's get into Module 1 proper. Learning should never be associated with terror. Many times, people go to school and the next time in the news, we are seeing all sorts of stories. These are headlines from around the world showing you the various incidents that have happened, not just here in Nigeria, even in other countries. So you see that safety consciousness is not just something that is important to just Nigerians. It is something that everybody across the world should be interested in. It's something that all school owners across the world should bear in mind as they think of giving quality education to children in their care. And so it's important that we begin to think, what are the things that could possibly go wrong in the school system? How can we avert it? Nobody sends their child to school to get hurt or to die. Nobody does that. And so when people send a child to your school, it's important that you ensure that the school system has been rigged in such a way that there is no drowning, there is no molestation, there is no bullying, there is no shooter coming into the school premises, or even if that even happens peradventure, there are systems in place to mitigate its effect. And so nobody should have to send their children to school and then be worried about the outcomes. So, what is safety? Safety is a state in which there is no harm or property damage to people or a state where these things are reduced as much as is reasonably practicable. What this simply means is that regardless of the environment you find yourself in, nobody should get hurt. There should be no loss of property. There should be no ill health. The thing is, most times when we talk about safety, people just think it's just about injury. But ill health actually happens, and most times you can't even pick up on it until years later when you have left the job. And that is why people will be working in a particular environment where they are exposed to so much noise, and they do not know it's affecting them. And then years down the line, they have hearing loss. Also, people work in certain environments where there is emission of certain fumes, and over time it leads to various cancers. And so when we talk about safety, it's not just about injury. How can you prevent ill health? How is the furniture in the school environment? Is it such that the teacher goes home with body pains? How is the school environment emotionally? Are people bullied? Are people being affected psychologically by relationship between staff or between children and the staff? So all these factors come together when we're talking about safety. So let's not always focus on just the injury aspect of things. What about the emotional? What about ill health? And what are the things we can put in place to ensure that as much as possible, these things are reduced? So what is a safety management system? This is actually very important to me because I have work experience in the aviation sector, and I have seen how using the safety management system, aviation has been able to reduce plane crashes and other safety incidents as much as possible. And so I'm borrowing that aspect of aviation, the safety management system, and then I'm localizing it to fit a school context. Any school owner, teacher, or educator that can make this to fit into the context of their schools to a large extent will boost the safety culture in that environment, and by extension reduce accidents and incidents. So what is a safety management system? According to Annex 19 of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, it is a systematic approach to managing safety, including the necessary organizational structures, accountability, responsibilities, policies, and procedures. Keywords: managing safety, including organizational structures, accountability, responsibilities, policies, and procedures. It is established and maintained by each service provider and operator, in this case the school, to continuously improve safety performance by identifying hazards, collecting and analyzing data, and continuously assessing safety risks. Now, there are certain keywords in this definition. It's really important that you identify hazards. It's also important that you collect and then you analyze the data. It's not just enough for you to collect data. You need to analyze it. What does this mean? What does it portend for your school in various situations? And then continuously assessing safety risks. Why is it important to continuously assess? As you assess, you see things that are working properly, and then you see things that are not working properly, and it helps you know how to manage it properly. It's really important to state at this point that a safety management system must be proactive. Now, safety is going to the point where we do not wait for things to happen before we begin to act. We want to think ahead, what could possibly go wrong, and then put systems in place such that even when things go wrong, we are able to withstand the effects. But if we do not do that, things eventually go wrong and then it becomes a problem. And so it's really important that our safety system is proactive. So you might begin to wonder, why is it important to even have a safety management system? What are the benefits? There are quite a lot of them. The first one is increased hazard identification. Why is that a benefit? Now, if you have a good safety management system in place, everybody involved in the business begins to identify hazards because they understand that this could actually affect the business in the long run, and so everybody gets involved. So whether it's the teacher, whether it's the student, whether it's the security personnel, whether it's the cleaners, everybody gets involved. Nobody thinks, oh, it's not my business, and then want to shy away from it. So giving an example, that would mean if a child was passing on the school corridor and sees a spill on the floor, bear in mind that the child is just a student, but because the child knows, has felt the system of safety in school, the child knows to report it to a cleaner, because the child knows that, okay, it's not my responsibility to clean this spill, but I know that we have cleaners who clean spills. And so the child goes to tell the cleaner that, oh, I've seen a spill here, please, we need to clean it up so that somebody else doesn't fall. That child is showing ownership. Another example could be the staff who has to go with the school bus when children have to leave school or when they have to resume. When you are in the bus with the students and you notice something wrong, say for example the driver is not following safety rules, or say for example when the student had to come off, there was an issue, or you felt the tire wobble, you just noticed something strange. Because you know that your school operates a good safety system, you wouldn't just think, oh, it's not my business, I'm not the school owner. Instead, you're going to report so that necessary action can be taken so it doesn't lead to an accident. One thing that happens before you have an accident is there is something we call a chain of errors. Different people keep on making certain mistakes or keep on making error in judgment, and nobody is saying anything, and before you know it, that accident happens. But if people speak up at the first point of error, it helps to nip it in the bud so it doesn't degenerate to an accident. So it helps in increasing hazard identification. The second thing it does for you is effective risk mitigation. Again, risk mitigation is about putting the right control measures, so that accidents, even if they do happen, they are properly managed. And so if you have put certain control measures in place and you see that it is not functioning as it should, then you speak up. Speaking up means that it is going to be found out and other things are going to be put in place to ensure that that loophole is plugged. But if everybody feels, oh, it's not my business, you see that necessary control measures would not work. And that is why it's important. And a good safety system shows people that when we all come together, when we all work together, we achieve the things we need to achieve. And so increased and effective risk mitigation. People now see that, oh, this control measure is not functioning as it should. Why don't we try this? Everybody gets involved and own it. The next point is it provides a framework for monitoring. What this simply means is there is a pattern. You can see what you're doing properly and you can see what is not going on well. That helps you to monitor. But if there is no system to even measure it, you wouldn't even know when something is going wrong. And so when you have a good safety management system in place, it helps you to see when you're performing up to standard, above standard, or below standard, and it helps you to take the necessary measure. Another point is it improves employee morale. Imagine you get this job and your benefits are amazing, and every time something is about to go wrong, you see how the school management swoops in to make sure that nothing actually happens. Before somebody gets injured, or even if somebody gets injured and you see how it is properly managed, it boosts your morale to work in that environment. But if things are poorly managed, you begin to wonder if you're in the right place, because you begin to think, if this were to happen to me, is this how the situation will be managed? But when you see that things are done properly, it makes you excited about working in that environment. And that enthusiasm spills over to how you do your work, in how you relate to the children in your class, in how you relate to other teachers, in how you relate to other educators, and even to parents. That enthusiasm spills over and it increases your productivity. And by extension, it makes parents want to come back to that school because they see that the teachers love what they are doing. Another important point is cost reduction. Many times people feel safety is expensive, and as a result, they do not want to do anything about safety. But the point is, if you fail to put the necessary safety systems in place, if you fail to buy the necessary safety equipment, when an incident eventually happens, what you are going to spend is going to be so much more. But if you have the right safety management system in place, it would reduce the incidence of spending funds that could have been used to move the business forward. You won't be using it on the fallout of accidents and incidents. And so it helps you to reduce your costs. Also, this also gives you access to funding. How does that happen? There are times that as a school, you probably started on limited funds, but you've built a good structure and then you want to expand. Business is now so good and you really want to expand, but you do not have enough funds to create the expansion of your dreams. But if you take the idea, the plan of your school to funders, investors, and they look at your system, they are more willing to put money in a place that has plugged in loopholes rather than a place that is an accident waiting to happen. And so that would help you to secure funding because they see your work as good investment. Another thing this does for you is it boosts your business confidence. Many organizations want to work with other organizations that are doing well, and their word of mouth actually spreads very fast in the school system. I'm sure you've experienced it where during a certain period, parents are talking about a particular school, they want to move their children to that school. And after a while, you hear them say they're moving the children to another school. What helps is the school's reputation. If you are known for doing good stuff, if your teachers are known for standards, if your environment is known as the ideal place to be, people would want to work with you. And so there are many organizations that are looking for organizations like yourself to work with. If they do not have this information or they do not see good things about your school, there is no way they are going to want to work with you. Now, last but not the least is legal compliance. If you are known to comply with safety rules, you are complying with all the necessary legal laws, because according to ILO, International Labour Organization, all employers are to provide a safe place of work. Okay, so that was just a brief introduction so that you can have an idea of why this is important. So now I'll be sharing with you the 4 major components of a safety management system. The first one is a safety policy, the next is safety risk management, and then we have safety assurance and safety promotion. What is the safety policy? Very briefly, it is management's commitment to provide a safe place of work. What is safety risk management? That is basically telling you how do you evaluate the risk in your environment and what are the things you can put in place to ensure that it is eliminated or totally reduced as much as is reasonably practicable. When we go to safety assurance, we'll be sharing with you on the importance of monitoring. And then safety promotion, we'll be talking about what are the ways to increase safety knowledge and promote a positive safety culture. So this brings us to the end of Module 1. In Module 2, we'll be focusing on safety policy, and each module is going to end with case studies so that you can see how practically these things happen and the things you can put in place to avert it. So see you in Module 2.